I believe that we can't just save the American dream. We can expand it to reach more people and change more lives than ever before.
America is a miracle country, and we have to restore the sense that the miracle will apply to you, each and every one of the people in this country who's watching tonight.
A GOP candidate selling the idea that the American miracle can be restored. Sounds a lot like Ronald Reagan in 1980. But 60% of Americans fearing their kids are going to be worse off than their parents. Steve, can we bring it back again?
Absolutely. I'm old enough to remember the 1970s, a malaise decade, America in decline. And in the 1980s, thanks to Ronald Reagan, we came roaring, leading the world, inspiring the world. We can do it again. And one of the things, even though Governor Kasich gave that wonderful thing, and Senator Rubio, the candidates in the debate on Thursday night passed up the opportunity to hammer home, how do we revive the American economy, the way Ronald Reagan hammered it home in the early 1980s, and criticizing President Obama for trashing the American economy. Reagan hit Carter hard in the 1980s. So they got to make that issue foremost, and I don't think they really did it on Thursday night.
Interesting. Rich, do you think they did it on Thursday night?
I agree with Steve. They didn't put much specifics to it. If we had just grown 1% more per year since the end of World War II, the economy today would be twice as large as it is. It'd be a $34 trillion economy. The average per capita wealth would be twice as much. It's just amazing, what growth does, and we wouldn't be at each other's throats as we are today, as we were in the 1970s.
Well, Sabrina, unlike Steve and myself, probably doesn't remember the 1970s. I remember the late 1970s, and there was this sense of malaise, this sense of despair, limits to growth. We're never going to get back the growth we had right before the explosion of the technology revolution that in large part came about through what Ronald Reagan did. Can we get back to that, or have we gone too far down the dark hole?
No, I think we absolutely can. I think that those poll numbers suggest that Americans are actually ready for a different narrative. I think it's terrible that the White House perpetually paints America as a land of income inequality, a place where women are mistreated, where racism is sort of persists in a terrible way. I think that the country is very much ready for something, but it needs to be more than political platitudes. It needs to be real economic policy reforms, as Steve suggests. And I think that Republicans especially really need to sort of actually get down into trenches and get on an emotional level. I don't want to hear about budget deficits if I'm a voter. They need to talk about what this means to people.
John Tammy, the point, you have to really get an emotional energy moving in the public, in the voting public, saying, yeah, we could do that. We could do sort of the I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Well, this reminds me of Groundhog Day. I can find you polls from the late 1970s saying kids were going to underperform their parents. I graduated from college in the early 90s. They said that about my generation. They're saying it about the millennials. We've heard this all before. It always happens after an economic downturn. Of course, we're going to turn this thing around. What the politicians missed in the debates is with economics and prosperity, the answers are easy. If you simplify a few basic policies, you can get abundant growth. I don't think the clown show the other night understands this.
Clown show. Bruce, the Democrats, surprisingly, are coming out with a very similar message. You hear it from Hillary saying, we got to get back to the days of growth and opportunity, everything. The problem with the Democrats, they had everything for 2 years of the past 6 years, and they've had the presidency for the past 6.5 years. So how can they credibly get away with saying we want to go back to something that they're responsible for getting rid of?
Well, one way that when they did have the Congress and the White House was when they expanded Medicaid with Obamacare. And Kasich and Rubio, what I liked about Kasich and Rubio is that they were forward-looking. And Kasich said, listen, we're giving the prisoners medications to get clean of drugs and get back to work. And Rubio, I was stunned to see a Republican actually know that Amazon is a big retailer. I'm sure Mike Huckabee thinks it's Walmart.
Well, Emac, I did not think that the words coming out of Kasich's mouth or Rubio's mouth were clownish in any way. I thought they were really hitting something that would strike a chord with the American people.
I agree. Under the Obama administration, Hillary would do the same. It's about redistributing before, in the way to get to economic growth. And they're not Neither of that. Watch who is saying this. 5% economic growth. We can't tax and spend our way to prosperity. Basically, we should have smaller government. Tax policies are ruining U.S.
I think
cities.
I know, but tell us.
These are the Democratic platforms dating from 1960 through the 90s. So that was a narrative. And by the way, Jeb Bush was right. Half the time we had 4% growth from World War II through 2007.
Last word from EMAC. Cashing in, getting ready to roll at the bottom of the hour. Eric, what do you got?
Hey, David, from the big debate to the big show, Scott Walker is right here. Think this smackdown between Chris Christie and Rand Paul over surveillance was epic? Wait until you hear what Scott Walker has to say about it. Plus, we say goodbye to Cashing In's biggest frenemy, Jon Stewart. Don't miss it. See you at 11:30.
We will see you, Eric. Thank you very much. But up here first, another EPA, the White House saying its new clean power rules are going to lower